Hi, I'm Father Charlie Bouchard, and I'm here today to offer you a word of hope on the readings for Monday, March 18th. You know, if we look at these two readings today, we would be tempted to think that they're both all about sin. In the first reading, we see these two wicked old men who are first trying to spy on Susanna as she is bathing, and who then stoop even lower and try to entrap her so that it appears that she's the one who is guilty of sin rather than them. And then in the gospel, we find another story about sin, which is the woman caught in adultery. So neither of these look very hopeful to begin with. But I think if we take a closer look at these readings, there's another message that can be helpful to us. For instance, in the first reading, we see the young man, Daniel, who is going to have a great future in Scripture, as you recall. And he really blows the whistle on these two old men and says, no, wait a minute. This is not how this works. We're going to take a much closer look at what really happened here, and we're going to find out the true story by questioning this woman and the two old men. And sure enough, Daniel arrives at the truth. And the important thing about that is that he is really expressing one of the gifts of the Spirit, which is both wisdom and courage. That he has the courage to stand up to these men who are by far his elders and to draw out the truth so that this woman's life is saved. And similarly, in the gospel, even though we begin with this unfortunate incident of this woman caught in adultery, there is a glimmer of hope here. In fact, more than a glimmer, there's a big dose of hope. Because Jesus, who was probably expected by those who were watching him to condemn her and to send her to death, doesn't do that. Instead, he uses that famous saying of his, "Let the one who is without sin cast the first stone." And of course, they all realize the problem that he poses, and they kind of drift away. And then when he meets with the woman, rather than condemning her, he says, "I do not condemn you. Go in peace and sin no more." So instead of condemnation and judgment, he is offering her compassion, forgiveness, and a second chance. And I think there are two important lessons for us in that. The first one is that sometimes we need to imitate the courage and the wisdom of Daniel. That there are a whole lot of problems, a whole lot of untruths, a whole lot of scandals in our society that need good people to stand up and draw attention to them and set the record straight. I'm not going to suggest what those might be, but we all have the chance to do that now and then, whether on a minor basis or on a major basis. The second thing that's important is not to get sucked into a preoccupation with sin. We've all had moments when we feel, oh, wow, I'm the worst ever. I'm the biggest sinner that's ever lived. And yet Jesus's example, his words to the woman, make it clear that there is more to it than that. That there is a truth to sin, but there is a greater truth to forgiveness and to reconciliation. So let's hold on to those two things today, those gifts of courage and the gift of accepting God's mercy and his invitation to start over.